Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Constitutional Considerations with Tactical Review and the Liberty Review podcast. I'm Blair of Tactical Review, joined by Elias of the Liberty Review podcast. Welcome, Elias. Thanks for joining.
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
Oh, I am doing just peachy. Yourself?
Oh, not too bad.
Awesome. Well, I have noticed in the preview pane, for those of you playing the home game, that we already have some buffering issues. I apologize. Unfortunately, I don't think YouTube likes me, is what it is.
Well, like I told you before, they saw just the subject and they decided no.
Correct. Yeah, we're talking about one of YouTube's favorite states, and we're talking about in a negative light. And then we're going to be talking about, somebody who is standing up against tyranny, so they don't like that.
Not today.
Anyway, we've got Randall in the chat. Welcome, Brastard. And Mark 18. Mark 18, you were asking about the GoFundMe, and I will let you know momentarily. Because I looked at that before I left work, and no, there we go. Well, now that is very interesting, because when I checked earlier, it was at 350,000, and now there's one at 36,000. So either there are some fraudulent accounts set up, which we'll talk about that. Okay, so the one I saw earlier, the one that Mr. Guns and Gear has been linking, is at $359,542 raised out of a $50,000 goal. So, and yeah, we will circle back around to that when we talk a little bit more in detail about what's going on with Officer Anderson. Brownies, welcome. And, as far as buffering, yeah, I had to bail on 2A's last live stream because it just got so bad that, as a matter of fact, some people had audio but no video, and on my screen I just got the circling donut of death and nothing. So we wouldn't know anything about having to have static images with somebody talking, would we, Elias?
No.
So
I'll just stare at the screen the whole time. That'll help with bandwidth.
there might be some truth to that if we just did an audio call. Anyway,
there you go.
So before we really start winding into things, I promise this will be the last live stream where I remind you guys of this, but time is running out on the social distancing t-shirt. If I can get in, there we go. Once again, on Monday, sales close for your hashtag social distancing t-shirt. Link in the description or in the merchandise store. That's bit.ly/TR merch. Excuse me. And Randall, really appreciate you placing an order. I do, once again, I have no control. It's a print on demand. And it took me a couple weeks to get my shirts when I ordered them. So rest assured, you will get your shirts. If I had some direct control over it, I would try to expedite things. If it makes you feel any better, I placed a clothing order, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, from Walmart for my wife and daughter. And I was getting the 3rd degree just yesterday, asking where that stuff was. I'm like, I don't know. Mark 18, he kind of has one of those faces. I think, and I'm not sure. So I actually reached out to Officer Anderson on Instagram. Unfortunately, I just reached out today. I didn't start trying to get the ball rolling early enough. I was hoping to get him on the stream with Elias and myself. Maybe he'll reach back out to me and join in the future. But again, we are jumping the gun on our subjects for this evening. So we have some news that's just kind of news. It's informational. We've got some good news this week. Again, I'm always happier to report some good news. And then we, as is always the case when in the political mechanisms, have some less than good news. So anyway, let's dive in here. And if I can find my, there we go. Find the window that has all of our news stories that we're looking at. Let's start with some just straight information. And once again, my fellow Americans set a monthly record for NICS checks for April last month. About a 25% increase from a year ago, April. And I think it said 4th highest of all time. So more than 2.9 million NICS checks run in April of 2020, which is awesome. Not quite the spike we saw in March, but an armed society is a polite society, and especially the first-time gun owners, yeah, we see some stupid stuff, absolutely, but by and large, it's a good thing getting more first-time gun owners. Those are people who get an education in the experience, some of them, as we saw out in California, and each person is one more person to help kind of normalize.
Right.
When it became abnormal, I don't know. When you look at the numbers, gun owners actually outnumber anti-gunners, but whatever. So anyway, it's just, again, just strictly informational. Sorry, I'm pouring coffee here and trying not to get second-degree burns. No skin grafts tonight. In fact, I think that if I was going to do a skin graft on air, I have to check that 18-plus box. Anyway, looking at the breakdown, nearly 1 million of those checks were handgun transfers. I'm going to guess that also includes rifle pattern pistols, such as my AKV. I was one of those. 68,000 plus checks related to other, which I would think would be strip lowers. I don't know what else falls under other. I don't have an FFL yet. And 35,000 that were multiple transfers. So that's pretty awesome stuff. And just not a lot to talk about other than there they were.
No, that's good.
It's good stuff.
Keep it going.
And once again, if looking at our chat right now, I think it's mostly our regulars, and most of us are old hat gun guys. That said, if you have acquaintances or friends who are those first-time gun owners, just politely remind them along the way that they are never to use that status as gun owner to try to further and make it even more difficult to practice our civil liberties.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and speaking of our civil liberties, and Elias, this is one actually I think that you are uniquely qualified to speak about, maybe. There is a bill before the Senate, S-3493, which is called the Protect Our Military Families Second Amendment Rights Act. It's a really wordy title.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at the body of this bill. Elias, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to do so. But military spouses sometimes find it more difficult to practice their Second Amendment rights. And sometimes military in general. Okay, looking back to the shooting that happened at the Florida Naval Base, the Marines and Navy personnel who were stationed there had to rely on the local sheriff's department to respond to that situation because of the copious laws surrounding the ability to possess a weapon on a military base. And yeah.
Well, so here's the thing that wow, the Naval Air Station was just back in December. It seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
It was back in December.
We've had a couple things happen.
I was thinking it was like a couple of years ago. It's just been, yeah. Anyway, okay. So right now the way it works is, like for instance, I bought one of my Glocks down in South Carolina when I was stationed there. I was an Indiana resident, but I was stationed in South Carolina, so by federal law I was allowed to purchase the firearm there. Because for some reason we still haven't gotten rid of the laws that says you can only buy it from your home state or use an FFL transfer. But anyway, military is protected that if you are stationed in that state, then you get to, when it comes to firearms law, you abide by the state as if you were a resident there. So I was able to buy the firearm there, that kind of thing. However, family members don't fall under that. So my wife would not have been able to legally buy it. She would have had to have them send it to Indiana, even though she lives in South Carolina, but she's not actually a resident of South Carolina because she's still legally a resident of Indiana. Because with military, you don't become a resident of that state just because you're stationed there.
But
which is a good thing, because sometimes you get benefits. Like for instance, Indiana has, certain exemptions for taxes for military pay that New York doesn't have. So if you're stationed in New York, you want to keep your Indiana residency. So anyway, that's what happens. The spouse falls under that same protection, but that became a problem with firearms. So what this law is going to do is it's actually going to do the same thing. It's going to better codify the thing for the for members, active duty members, but it's also going to throw the spouses in there. It's not all family members, but at least it's the spouse and the member themselves, where they will legally be residents of the state that they're legal residents in. So for me, it would have been Indiana. The state where their base is, so let's take South Carolina, and then the state where their house is that they commute to every day, which is good because if, for instance, let's say it's one where Andrews Air Force Base would be a great example. You might be from Indiana, stationed at Andrews, but live in Virginia. So you would legally be a resident of all three states,
Gotcha.
Which means you could buy firearms in all three states without any issues.
Gotcha.
So this is a really good thing especially for the spouses.
Yeah, I'm stuck back about 45 seconds because when you're stationed wherever, your mailing address is in that state at that base, correct?
Correct. Your mailing address can be there,
Right.
but that's not your permanent residence. Well, even on most paperwork, you would say that's your permanent residence,
Right.
but that's not your legal state of residence.
Well, okay, I've had twice.
Unless you want it to be.
I've had twice where I have moved within the same kind of regional area. It happened to me when I lived in Chattanooga, and it happened after we moved back to Indiana. I had moved, so my driver's license still had my previous address in the same state, in the same general region. And I went to attempt to purchase a firearm, and that was a pain in the butt. So, if you don't have, you see, what got me around the problems with that is that I had my voter registration card in one instance that had my new address, and my vehicle registration in another address. How would that work? Because vehicle registration and all of that would be in the state where you're stationed, correct?
It really depends. You can get it there. I had in one state where I purchased a car when I was stationed in Nevada, the car had Nevada tags. But like when I went to Indiana, when I went to South Carolina, my plates were Indiana tags and they just stayed that way.
Oh, okay.
Military, how most states have the rules that you have to get a driver's license, registration, all that within like 30
Right.
days. Military are exempt from that requirement.
So,
They can if they want to, but they are not required to.
so for the military spouse, as it stands right now, they
It's
need they
that's
need
still right.
one.
They fall under that same thing, but not for firearms.
So they would be they would need their vehicle registered in their state of residence so that they could even
Right.
pass a 4473. Alternately,
Correct.
alternately, this would require the service member to actually, well, they're in the same household, so it's a little grayer, but it would technically be a straw purchase. That's
Technically correct. Yeah. I mean, there's some legality around that kind of thing, but you still have to run the person's.
right. Right. If they're
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So legally, I would have had to purchase the firearm and then give it to her as a gift that night.
right. Well, and
Which,
if you're
yeah,
if
it just adds complexity.
if you're kind of a traditional family, yeah, you have, if not all, at least some shared finances, and so I mean,
Correct.
so
Correct.
it's just
It just makes it easier and it gets
Right.
rid of that kind of thing somebody can string someone up,
Right.
which is a good thing.
right now.
Yeah, and as for what Hunts for Life just said, well, that's the good thing. Back in 2016, DoD actually they loosened that up a lot. It used to be when I was still in, you couldn't carry at all. They loosened that up and left it to the base commanders. That if you had a CCW from either the state you lived in or your residence, the commanders of the bases were allowed to decide that, which was really nice. I wish they had that when I was in.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. It's more and more, the more I look at the social climate, I feel more naked anytime I'm out of my house and for whatever reason I'm not carrying. And, you know, somebody can lambast me in the chat if they want. There are various sundry reasons why a person would not carry outside the confines of their home. It just,
No.
Jeremy Wilson, welcome to the stream, brother. I think it's been a couple minutes since I've seen you in the chat. So, and Hunts, I didn't give you a welcome. Thanks for joining, guys.
But yeah, I mean, it's really good stuff. I mean, hopefully this bill gets through without any issue because it's a good bill and it should be there.
Right. Yeah, it never dawned on me that a spouse would not have many, if not all, of the same privileges. Anywho, they should.
Yeah,
they should because, you know, having close friends and family members who serve and who have deployed, the spouses absolutely, their life may not be on the line in the same way when a service member gets deployed to an active combat zone, but they're absolutely sacrificing for their spouse's service. So, and then the last national news story, it's really, I don't know. In this article, the mainstream media doesn't have a freaking clue, so I guess it's really not news. But there is, let me get the date. I'm gonna drop this link for you guys in the chat, and yeah, Brastard, absolutely. We're gonna kind of circle back around, actually, right now to theft of firearms and how that. So, what's the date on this? Okay, so this is in response to a Rolling Stone article from last August. So it's a little behind the times, but not terribly dated. So Seth Harp of the Rolling Stones, or for the Rolling Stones, really just doesn't get it. obviously, the United States gun laws are once again responsible for all of the violent crime that occurs south of the border in Mexico. It's just the Rolling Stone, poor conservative, welcome. Thanks for joining, brother. The Rolling Stone article is just, it's all about the low-key gun walking. Not gun running, mind you. That's big business. Gun walking is, you know, guys like Elias or myself just, you know, take a few items across the border and turn a quick profit. It's so tone deaf and stupid. In much the same way that so many anti-gunners were convinced about how easy it is to procure a firearm until they felt the need and panic to procure one from themselves. This just in, it's illegal to purchase a firearm with the sole intention of reselling it without an FFL. So it's already illegal to purchase with the intent of taking it across the border, not to mention the export laws that you violate in doing that. So, I don't know. I read the article and then tried to wrap my mind around it. I tried. You know, they say to always try to approach a disagreement from the other person's point of view, and I attempted it, and I sprained my back trying to get my head that far up my butt. Oh, Brastard, according to the Rolling Stones, for Mexican Arasaka, you should be able to just, you know, go down there and trade one of the belt-fed machine guns that we can evidently readily buy here in the United States. So it's a pretty even trade, I think. Yes. Hunts, that article in the Rolling Stone actually very conveniently ignores the Fast and Furious scheme that you are referencing there. And I don't know, my mind is just blown because if any of the 15 of us currently involved with this live stream attempted even a single transfer of a firearm to somebody in Mexico and were caught, we'd go to prison like forever, and we would be fined all of the money. And yet I don't recall seeing in the news any wholesale dismissal of ATF personnel who were involved with this. I don't recall seeing any major criminal charges being brought up against political figures who were involved with the Fast and the Furious scheme. Once again, it's the endemic of the oligarchy that we've allowed to be created in our country.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got two different problems. First of all, this just saying criminals will break the law.
No.
I know, it's shocking. There will be a law and they will completely disregard it. I know that sounds crazy, but the fact of the matter is no matter how many laws you make, they're going to keep breaking them. And second of all, crime is only permitted when performed by the government.
Right?
I mean, we've done some pretty bad things from our government, so man, it's really not that surprising.
Yeah. Oh, Brastard, if you're looking to move that RPG... No. We don't need the stream locked down. It's actually flowing pretty well right now, so I'm not... Nope. Yes, the U.S. caste system. That's a great way to say it. Poor conservative. Man, before I went off on my tangent, there was something I was getting ready to say. Obviously, I don't disagree. Yeah, bad people are going to do bad things, and the laws only serve to penalize people who care about the laws. But of course, the opposition, in any debate where you mention that, the opposition always likes to say, well, then why don't we make, pedophilia legal because pedophiles are going to pedophile anyway. Ironically, they're actually major movements within the government to make pedophilia illegal, and that just angers me and grosses me out. George Washington, I'm going to give you the good news. What you missed was a record-setting April as far as background checks, and coming in the top 10 month, or within the top 10, I think it was number 4 all time. That was a good one. And Senate bill that's going through that is attempting to make it easier for military spouses to maintain their civil liberties. So we're going to hit the good news. We're not going to talk about the stupidity that is the Rolling Stone magazine. And speaking of...
Synonymous.
Speaking of stupidity, real quick before we start drilling down to state level news, we're going to jump up and, well, it's kind of state level. We're going to jump up to North Montana, and that's Canada for those of you who don't watch cartoons. I'm a big kid and I have kids, so I've watched all of the Disney stuff. Anyway, the
only thing I know is we blame Canada.
Yes, and then they will apologize for it, except for the...
And when you see the news that comes out of Canada, that's why wouldn't we blame them at this point?
Right. So, hot on the heels of all of the anti-gun crap going on up there, for Star Wars Day, which for those of you who are non-geeks, May the 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And so a local cantina decided to do a promo for Star Wars Day, and they hired a young lady to dress in full stormtrooper armor to promote this deal that they were running. And the Canadian police saw a person in full stormtrooper armor with a stormtrooper blaster complete with orange safety tip. Orange safety tip kind of gives away that the sci-fi blaster that's made out of plastic isn't real. And they charged up at this young woman, pointing at her a SIG 551A1 assault rifle, not assault weapon, not a made-up term, an actual select fire assault rifle, because cops can have those, even though nobody else can.
Mm-hmm.
And even her dropping this fake blaster on the ground was not enough. They forced her to the ground, which if you're not a cosplayer, and I'm not, but I've worn just a plate carrier, and that's hard enough to move in. I don't imagine that full stormtrooper armor gives you a wide range of mobility.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right, brownies. It's Revenge of the Fifth. So, nonetheless, congratulations, Canada. You, on top of banning AR-15.com and Black Rifle Coffee, you also cannot discern fiction from reality. So
apparently they're going to have to put blasters on there too. Should have told them that wasn't on the list.
Evidently. I'm really a little envious of that SIG 551. It's kind of a nice looking little SBR. Anyway. Yeah. And the police haven't even issued an apology. That's fantastic.
Why would they?
Well,
why would they? The police are never wrong.
Lethbridge Police Department. Fantastic. All that to say, obviously, there is an air of caution to be demonstrated if you do have toy guns, especially in this shoot-happy world that we live in by the police.
We've had kids shot by the kind of toy guns that we played with when we were kids. Now you get kids that are shot.
Well, no, not even that, because when we were kids, some of them didn't even have the orange plastic cap. And
yeah, oh yeah, that's
they,
true. It's
they
even
were
worse
die-cast metal.
Ours looked exactly like the real
Right.
thing. Yeah.
So, yeah, mini like the mini AK-47s that are like the size of an actual handgun and kind of shaped like an AK-40, like the AK was it AK-47 whiskey or bourbon, like those bottles. Only it's a plastic toy, and we've had kids shot over them. So,
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
which actually,
This is the state.
what's funny about that though, talking about gun-shaped objects, is I was just talking with a coworker yesterday. I was saying that the next time that we head out to the range, that I'd like to take barricades and kind of set up a house out on the 50-yard range, and put silhouette targets up, and take photocopy or black and white prints of, some of them will have a pistol, and some of them will have a rifle printed off, and some of them will have a knife, but some of them will have a microphone, and some of them will have a hairdryer. And we've got like 3 people that usually go out shooting, and so if we have a barricade set up between the pavilion and the actual range, that we could have the 2 non-shooters for the next round set up those targets, obviously, so the field of fire is always away from the pavilion and towards a berm, but then time it where a person has to go through and clear the open air shoot house, and so that you're under time and under stress, and you have to be able to differentiate a hairdryer from a handgun.
Yep.
Because
And then try to encourage the cops to actually get that kind of training.
it's actually, I hate to at anybody. And again, I've talked, once again, the peacekeeping organizations in my immediate vicinity, the guys are super pro 2A, and I have a high level of respect. But I have invited several to the range and have yet to get a positive response. And it's just like,
I mean, it's kind of what we talked about before. It's not so much you got bad guys, but the propaganda's there.
Yeah.
And they're fed. I mean, quite frankly, the state, discourages it. The state encourages the idea that you're different than them.
yeah,
They're civilians. You're police. Where really it's, no, you're civilians also.
you're right. Yeah, you're a civilian peacekeeping officer. Yep, we talked about that a couple weeks ago till we were blue in the face.
But I mean, it's really what it comes down to is they are now taught that you guys, we're not all on the same level, even though we are.
It's not even that. I am acquainted through, kind of like the degrees of bacon. I'm about 3 degrees away from one of the local armorers. As a matter of fact, he installed my handgun sights for me on my new slide. And even he has said it's all that a lot of departments can do, including my local departments, to get the officers to come out to their annual or semi-annual qualifications, let alone regular practice. And a lot of these departments, up to thousands of rounds a month, it's all you can eat ammunition for training if they want it. Man, if you told me you were going to pay me to go to the range and provide my ammunition.
What's scary is that these are the guys people are relying on to be good shots in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
But you can't get them to go and practice and do what they're supposed to do to make sure. See, that just kind of lends to the idea of you need to be prepared to take care of your own.
Absolutely. And poor conservative, yeah, there are police officers who absolutely will go out and shoot with regular guys. Part of the problem is, too, It used to be that you could sign waivers and stuff and do force-on-force training with your local police department and stuff. You could sign up to be one of the bad guys. And a lot of departments won't do that anymore. They won't let, like it used to be that if you had an in, you could go out to the police range every once in a while, and sometimes you could shoot their ammo, but sometimes, or you might have to provide your own ammo, but you could work with them and get. And a lot of departments anymore, their insurance just doesn't allow it, which is further driving that wedge that we've talked about. So
That's why I said I don't think it's not individual. You get some individual guys who are good. It's a systemic problem.
yeah, and like I said, as a gun guy, I just don't get it. If somebody was offering,
Yeah.
we will pay you up to X number of hours a week, and we will provide all your ammunition, or even you don't even have to pay me. Even if you just said, we will provide all of the training ammunition that you want. Boy, I'm going to shoot until you tell me, okay, that's too much.
That's when you get asked, why'd you become a cop? I just wanted to be at the range
Right.
all day.
Right.
Tell your sergeant that you need more practice. I'm going to be at the range all day. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need practice with that and that and that, and start pointing to all the fun toys.
Well, that's like, I am patiently awaiting the time that any ammunition manufacturer offers even a partial, not scholarship, nope, sponsorship to the channel for ammunition, and they're going to be like, no, dude, you've shot through your allowance already. It doesn't matter what that allowance is.
You're like, but you'll tell me, but we're not even done with the first day of the month yet.
Right.
Day one, Blair's already ran through all the allowance, through all the marketing budget for that one.
We gave you 10,000 rounds. Yeah, it was a nice Saturday. Poor conservative used to teach Phoenix PD in the 90s. Cops used to be much more welcoming. Yeah, that goes back to this us against them kind of mentality. So,
Yep.
All but one non-membership required ranges here in Ohio have been shut down for years. There is a completely public range relatively close to me. I've not been there. Number one, it's like 45 minutes in the wrong direction. I shot at one when I lived down in Tennessee. There was one of the state parks had a public range. And to me, proximity and everything, it's easily worth the $100 a year range dues that I have, but I realize not everybody has access to a range that's that affordable either.
Is the range near you DNR range?
I think it might be.
So here's my question, and this is actually a good medium to ask it. I'm still trying to wrap my head why it is that in Indiana the archery ranges are all open, but not the shooting ranges. They've closed the shooting ranges ever since this whole thing started, and they're still not on the plan to open them back up. And that's something that's really frustrating, because I don't understand why the shooting ranges are closed right now. They're all outdoor ranges, just like the archery. So why is it we can go shoot bow and arrow, but I can't go shoot rifle right now?
That's a really great question, and that might be something to join the Indiana Civil Defense League and ping them on Facebook and see if they are pursuing either getting that changed or threatening legal action.
Yeah, because I don't understand that DNR's over here going, yeah, we're opening, you can go do this and go hiking, go do all this other outdoor stuff, but shooting ranges are closed.
Yeah. Well, then that's actually a really good segue to another story. So we'll go ahead and introduce that as soon as I find which tab that is. Yeah, it's New Jersey. So I know we have a few folks out on the eastern seaboard. I don't know if... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. There go all of your speakers. So
You have the Kung Fu virus.
I have the Kung Flu. Yeah, which group is this? The Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs have actually filed a lawsuit over the fact that their gun ranges are still shut down, and they've actually reopened parks, golf courses, and tennis courts. So there you go. There is precedent from around the country to put pressure on for reopening.
Well, and that's the thing. It's ridiculous. These are outdoor events just like anything else.
Yeah.
And due to the fact that a lot of, at least the DNR ranges I've been in, it was, you've got your spot that you're in, and then the next spot over actually has a divider. So even if they want to say, talking about, what do you call it, social distancing, well, you've got dividers between the lanes anyway.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't see a reason why you can't have it open.
I'm not sure. And it would be different.
Hopefully things like this take more traction.
Like, the playgrounds made a little bit of sense to me because those are high contact areas. But at a range, you've got your shooting wrist, and that's about it. Yeah. So, and it kind of surprises me even that Governor Holcomb hasn't started talking about that to a degree.
Well, that's what, yeah, exactly.
Because
it's Indiana. We're not talking about Jersey or New York or California. This is Indiana.
Right. So, in fact, that might even be a good thing to email somebody in the DNR and see about getting an official response even. You know, between Elias and myself, we'll try to have a follow-up on that next Wednesday. Just by virtue of the fact that, again, there's other states where it would make a lot more sense if they were having these struggles. And with archery ranges being open, it surprises me. So,
we'll be semi-real journalists.
No, that's not allowed. What's happening on this channel? My last video, I had somebody say that they learned something in the live chat when I premiered it, and now we're trying to be real journalists. We can't do this.
I still email that one sheriff who decided never to write back to me.
Doesn't entirely surprise me. I bet there was a lot of negative publicity over that situation. Man, I lost it. I had an actual comment, and it's gone. Anyway, let's stay over in. Actually, nope, those are down south. So let's stay up in the northeast. And is Vanessa Kitty in the chat?
Not that I saw.
haven't seen her, but she's from Connecticut, or not from. She lives in Connecticut, and we have a story about Connecticut. The Connecticut Citizens Defense League is filing suit over fingerprinting. Like a lot of states, Connecticut, for many things, in fact, more than some states that I've seen, they require fingerprints for a lot of things pertaining to firearms. In the state of Indiana, the one time I've had to submit to fingerprints was for my carry permit, which is unconstitutional, but we won't go there. And the governor in Connecticut has told law enforcement not to process fingerprints for firearms permit purposes. And yet they are processing fingerprints for other purposes. So Connecticut Civil Defense League has brought suit over this, and we will see where that goes.
That's good. There's no reason why.
No, that's, again, in Indiana, I know that when things shut down, lobbies of, you couldn't just go into the lobby at the sheriff's department and so on and so forth. It became a de facto ban on new concealed carry permits, or handgun permits, handgun carry permit. Anyway, carry permit, there we go. Because in Indiana, you can open or concealed carry with said permit. Anyhow, it became a de facto ban on new permits by virtue of the fact that you could not go in any place to get your fingerprints processed. So, yeah. And let's see, Port Conservative, I think I'm at 2. I was fingerprinted for my Tennessee permit and then for my Indiana permit. And I'm a good boy. I never got in the troubles and stayed in the Gray Bar Motel. So,
at least that they know of.
Right, yes. Yes, absolutely accurate. Wait, does it count as being fingerprinted if they only lifted your prints from a crime scene?
As long as they never matched them.
And
Then it doesn't count.
There's another watch list, and just wait, the stream's going to start buffering here momentarily.
Yeah.
And hey, we've got more good news, Elias. I forgot about this one. We do.
I'm actually surprised by that, but
good
okay.
Good news in the Northeast, as a matter of fact. Words.
That doesn't sound right.
Maybe I read this wrong. Maryland governor. Maryland? Really? Maryland?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is Maryland. I'm even more surprised. I had to double check that it wasn't Maine, and I was misreading the abbreviation. Governor Hogan shot down a Senate Bill 208 and House Bill 4. Those two bills were actually working on requiring. Let me reread this. No, it was looking at completely banning transferring shotguns and rifles private party. So, I suppose I didn't read the body of those bills. I'm guessing that they wanted to require an FFL involved with every transfer, and there was no exemption for loaning a firearm, a gift, so on and so forth. So, which is how a lot of other countries are. In the UK, with the most recent laws I was familiar with, there we go, which this is a few years old now, they may be even more restrictive, but a firearm in the UK was very similar to NFA items here in the United States, where the only way you could fire somebody else's firearm is if you were their in-person guest. So the United States is very similar with silencers and stuff. You can't just hand it to your buddy and say, hey, go try this out. I know you're looking for a silencer.
Right.
So, which is a bunch of garbage, but contractors. Oh. Poor Conservatives giving his list of fingerprints. Gotcha. I thought it was a list that had to do with who all was still allowed to do transfers. So anyway, good job, Governor Hogan. He actually issued a statement saying that his priority is to hold violent criminals accountable. That's revolutionary, punishing the people who commit the crimes, not people who don't. We're not going to head up to the north yet.
I thought we were in the north.
We're in the north. Our news wasn't.
We did the northeast.
Northeast. Okay. Sorry. I'm looking at one that actually...
You don't want to go to the Midwest.
Yes. There we go. Northern border of the Midwest. Yes. I'm confused. Okay. Now, let's head down south, down to Alabama, where the Gun Owners of America and Gun Owners Foundation... Wait, that's the same organization. I'm a little confused. So the Gun Owners Foundation, by the way, is the legal arm of Gun Owners of America. And I only know this because if you use Amazon Smile and you are looking for a Pro 2A nonprofit, Gun Owners Foundation is on there Gun Owners of America is not, but they are two sides of the same coin. Anyway, sorry, things you catch on a second or third reading. How about I give you guys the link and you guys can misread it for yourselves.
Yeah.
So, this is an interesting one, and this one is going to actually kind of hit close to home for our Michigan folks. The Alabama concealed carry permit previously provided an exemption to a NICS check. Sound familiar?
Right.
Evidently, there are municipalities, localities, where sheriffs were not running the background checks properly, or I don't know. But ineligible people were granted concealed carry permits. And as such, the ATF has revoked the Alabama concealed carry permit as a bypass to a NICS check.
I will say I don't know how far this lawsuit will go, because I actually went back and found the ATF letter that they had sent to the state of Alabama, warning them that they had done some kind of audits, I guess, and found several that just they weren't doing it. They were not abiding by the law that allowed them to be exempted, and that was the reason why. So this is not so much a thing of they've decided to trample on states' rights, but I mean, I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying it's not as that cut and dry. So much as there was an agreement. We'll let you handle your business as long as you're making sure these checks are done. And some of the ones in Alabama just went, no, we're just not going to do it.
Right.
And what happened was the ATF warned them. They didn't listen. So then the ATF said, okay, well, that's gone now.
I'd be interested to know.
And that was like a year ago that they sent the letter,
right,
warning them.
I would be interested to know, like, what percentage, and if it's only a few localities.
Yeah.
Because let's say that it's 2 sheriff's departments across the whole state. Even if they're issuing a whole bunch of concealed carry permits, it would make more sense to me to penalize those sheriffs for not doing.
Well, the problem is that you can't do anything to the sheriffs. Remember, sheriffs are elected officials. You can't fire them. They can be impeached, but they can't be fired.
Right, but can't there be what's the word I'm looking for? Like sanctions leveled against the department?
There might be. I don't know, and that's where I don't know Alabama law now. But that's the question: was the state notified, and the state didn't do anything? And so at that point, they don't really have a choice to do anything, because it's either kind of an all or none probably. And if the state wasn't doing anything, ATF probably went, well, it's all or none, and the state's not doing anything about it, so we can't trust them at this point to abide. And they said, there were even felons that had gotten CCPs at that point without any kind of checks. So I can understand the ATF side of it. I don't know if there was a better way to go about it, or if Alabama just told them to get lost.
Right. And I'll go on record right now as saying I disagree with the necessity of a NICS check in the first place. I disagree that a felony should necessarily, like carte blanche, restrict somebody from their Second Amendment rights forever. Okay.
I think it really depends on what is the felony.
Right. We've talked about all of these things before. That said, at this juncture, NICS checks, the Form 4473 is the law of the land, and so if there has been exemption given to not have to run
and that's the thing. And that's kind of why I kind of am on the ATF side of this, and I can't believe I just said that. But
go wash your mouth out with soap.
What I mean is there was an agreement.
Right.
There was an agreement where both sides said, okay, we will agree to abide by these rules. One side decided not to abide by them, so I'm not really surprised the ATF went and did it. From that perspective, I say, okay, I get why you did it.
Right.
I agree with you. I think that we have way too many restrictions.
Oh, absolutely.
I think some felonies should. The idea of felonies not allowing for certain things is not really
Right. We've gone.
surprising.
Excuse me.
But
We've covered this. If somebody cannot be entrusted to have their civil liberties due to
Right.
their criminal penchant, then they shouldn't be out and free. So.
but not just because something is a felony. I
Right.
mean, you have felony drug possession.
Right. So, and I noticed that we're buffering again. So either, let's see, it's 10 p.m. Eastern, which is 7 p.m. We might be hitting some bandwidth issues from church services starting, because we are going on. We're hitting right at an even hour, pretty close, and so I'm sure that there are churches out in the west, out in Pacific time, who are starting their streams.
Are there still churches out there? I thought they got all repressed by this point.
Well, as soon as they, oh, never mind. I was going to quote a Babylon Bee article, and I'm not going to, because
Let's not go down that route.
no,
That'll derail. You know better than to derail this.
it's already derailed. All right, and while we're in the South, let's head into Florida, which once upon a time was known as the Gunshine State, and somehow they have voted that all away. And Agriculture Commissioner Nikki, is that Fried or Freed? It's spelled Fried. I don't know how it's pronounced. She sent out a big blast email basically complaining about the fact that she is being sued for being, unconstitutional in her views. And so I'm just reading through the body of this email, and she's complaining about the NRA, but then she says that the lawsuit is being brought up. Let me find. And now an obscure right-wing fringe group said I could expect a lawsuit. I'm interested. So she's saying that the NRA is the one leveling accusations. So evidently somebody found enough time to quit helping Wayne shop for new suits to even level any accusations. But she says an obscure right-wing fringe group. So I don't know if that is a state-level group or...
It's the Young Americans for Liberty.
Okay.
Which is a libertarian student activism organization that's headquartered in Austin.
Okay. So she's not entirely wrong. That is a little bit obscure, which isn't to say that I don't support grassroots.
They've been around for a while. They formed up after Ron Paul's campaign.
Okay.
So if you think Ron Paul, these are the kind of people who established.
Gotcha.
Which I'm not against them at all.
Well, and they're from Texas. That probably just really knocks them down in your view.
Well, they are from Austin, so I don't really like to claim Austin anymore because they're kind of becoming mini California. But still, it's good to see that there is still some good there.
So actually, though, what I'm most curious about, though, is why is the Department of Agriculture so involved with like carry permits and things like that? Is what I don't understand.
Well, I thought she was running for Attorney General, isn't she?
Oh,
wasn't she? Or is
that
that something else?
That would make a lot more sense. I don't know. The article that I've linked doesn't give that information.
Yeah, because she's a former, or no, she's the current one. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure. Oh well, you know what? Does AG have anything? Does the Agricultural Commission have anything to do with DNR and stuff like that? Because I know if you go to the federal level, for instance, the Department of Agriculture is over the Forest Department.
Okay.
So could it be one of those things where she actually does have some say so about certain areas in
Maybe.
Florida, and she was trying to
That could be. If anybody's from
prevent
Florida
it?
or more familiar with the story, absolutely say something in chat and let us know. So, tell you what, we are actually getting ready to talk more about Officer Anderson, but I'm going to, and so Elias by default, we're going to take just a few minute break here, guys. Feel free to continue chatting amongst yourselves, and we will be back as soon as possible. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. And yeah, I know it was obvious, but biology happens. So, anyway, Elias made good use of that time, though, and found out a little bit more information about what was going on down in Florida. So, if you would care to edify us.
Yeah, so, okay, the reason that the Department of Agriculture in Florida, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is who runs the background checks for concealed permits. The previous commissioner, under his leadership, they weren't actually conducting background checks. They were just issuing out the cards. So it's kind of fun what we were talking about a minute ago of not requiring the checks and stuff. He actually was just handing them out, which I'm not totally against because I think there should be constitutional carry anyway.
Right.
Nikki Fried decided that she wasn't going to do that. What I can't figure out is, did she go further or did she just decide to make the NRA mad?
Yeah, and
I'm trying to figure out why exactly they decided to start going after her. What did she do? But apparently that's the reason why she's involved with the gun control, is because that department handles issuing the permits and things like that.
That's still...
all it says is they are... Let's see...
I I just don't understand why that wouldn't be handled by like state police or,
Oh,
you know.
apparently she's slowing it all down right now and using the virus as an excuse.
That hasn't happened everywhere else in the country.
Here it is. The suit aims to lift a suspension of online permit applications.
Okay.
So pretty much what she did was make it harder for people to get them. She suspended the online at a time when they're telling people you can't come in.
Right. Why?
So that's the reason why. So it went from the guy who was just handing them out like candy because you applied online to her shutting that all down. She didn't just say, okay, I'm going to start doing the background checks. She also decided, you know what? I'm not going to even take the applications.
Gotcha. All right.
And she's using the fingerprint collection as the excuse. Same thing. Which doesn't really make any sense.
No, once again, because they're still. I'm pretty confident that they're still fingerprinting people when they, book them into jail for violating social distancing, or whatever they've decided to jail people for. So, all right. Anyway, once again, constitutional carry should be the law of the land because the Constitution is, in fact, the law of the land. Nationwide carry permit reciprocity, that'd be a great thing, but that's kind of beyond the scope of the current discussion. Regardless, as promised before the break, we are now going to head out to the state of Washington, where a Seattle police officer put out a video basically calling his brothers in blue to quit being the Gestapo. It's only an 8-minute video, and so just in case you guys hadn't seen that, I'm going to go ahead and roll that now.
As a police officer, I'm compelled to make this video. I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's the minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore, because every time I turn on the television, every time I look to the internet, I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church, for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses, going to the park with their families, or doing nails out of their own house, using their own house as a place of business, and having undercover agents go there and arrest them and charge them with what? With a crime? I don't know what crime people are committing by doing nails in their own house, but we're seeing this more and more and more, and we need to start looking at ourselves as officers and thinking, is what I'm doing right? Now, I want to remind you that regardless of where you stand on the coronavirus, we don't have the authority to do those things to people just because a mayor or a governor tells you otherwise. I don't care if it's your sergeant or your chief of police. We don't get to violate people's constitutional rights because somebody in our chain of command tells us otherwise. It's not how this country works. Those are de facto arrests. We're violating people's rights and taking money from them, or even worse, arresting them and depriving them of their freedom when they are exercising their constitutional rights. So let's talk about that. Let's read something right here off of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. Among these, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed, meaning our power and any government official's power is derived from the people. Okay? We don't hold power over our citizens. It's contradictory to everything that our country stands for. And this is what I'm seeing. First Amendment rights, telling people they can't go to church, freedom of religion, okay? Telling people they can't protest, freedom of assembly. Fourth Amendment violations, illegal traffic stops to check for papers. What are you, the Gestapo? Is this 1930s Nazi Germany? You don't get to stop people unless you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that they have committed a crime. And I know people that have personally been stopped saying, we want to see papers showing that you're essential.
David 2, copy a phone call.
That is not how our job works, okay? What really has been pissing me off lately is the fact that these officers that are going out here and enforcing these tyrannical orders, what they're doing is they're making my job and my safety, or they're putting my job and my safety at risk. Because what you're doing is you're widening the gap between public trust and law enforcement officers. And what that's going to do is it's going to, I mean, look at what's happened to law enforcement in the last 10 years. Less and less public trust, and more often than not, that is a result of isolated incidents that get blown out of proportion. Well, they're not isolated anymore. They're happening every single day. And the thing that I want you guys to realize is that our power that we hold as law enforcement officers is nothing more than a facade. It's a badge and a gun. And people, you don't realize, if you haven't lived in anarchy, if you haven't seen combat, things can be stripped from people in a heartbeat. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that these actions are going to wake a sleeping giant, i.e. the American people, okay? They are going to be put in a position where they won't have their rights trampled anymore. And us as law enforcement officers, we'll have our ability to enforce the law stripped from us in about 10 minutes, okay? I think what is going to happen if this continues is we're going to see bloodshed in the streets, okay? I don't want to see bloodshed in the streets on either side of this coin. I don't want to see fellow officers get injured or killed, and I certainly don't want to see citizens get injured or killed. And I promise you, most of you out there doing these tyrannical acts against our citizens, you're not ready for combat. You're not mentally or physically ready for combat in the first place. I promise you, you don't want to go through that, and I hope I never have to go through that again. You know, you don't get to just say, well, I'm doing this because I was told to do so, or I'm following orders, or I need to keep this job. Guess what? I need to keep this job more than anybody. I have 3 young children. I have 2 houses. Like, I have the same sob story that the rest of you guys have. But my personal choices and my living arrangements, no matter what they are, don't allow me to trample on people's rights. And I don't understand why that concept is so hard for people to understand. Listen, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to, if you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say, no, that's not me. That's not what I signed up for, and that's going against my oath. And if that costs you your job, so be it. At least you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view, but I don't care what department you're part of or what your chain of command thinks. You don't get to trample on people's liberty. And so, you know, as a special operations veteran, I've fought on the streets of Iraq under the U.S. government's guise of freedom. And I'm telling you what, the American people are going to you are going to wake a sleeping giant, and they are going to fight 10 times harder for their freedom on their soil than anything you've ever seen before. And if that's something you're willing to face, then keep trampling on people's rights. But I promise you, the American spirit of defiance is going to rise again, and it's going to be a big problem for our country. So I'll leave you with this, something that I learned as an E-nothing in the Army. No matter what situation you're put in, if you look inside yourself and ask yourself one question, am I doing the right thing? You ask yourself that, you know the answer. And no amount of money or no order or law or anything should be able to make you go against doing the right thing. So I'm imploring officers to look inside themselves and ask themselves, is this what I want to be doing to my citizens? And I think the answer is clear. And if we all stand up together, guess what? It'll be a non-issue, no factor, because people and law enforcement will be united like we should be.
All right. First off, Elias, do you have audio back? Okay, that's neat. We've lost Elias's audio. You didn't flip any switches or anything, did you? Good. Okay, well, we will figure out what's going on with that because obviously, okay, not obviously. We're going to talk a little bit more about the things that could, maybe did or did not go into legalities and whatnot. Regardless, the governor reached out to Officer Anderson's department and made a demand that he take that video down. Elias, I can hear you again. Yes,
can you?
I don't know what changed, but I can hear you again. Good.
All right. Then.
Anyway,
Okay.
Officer Anderson was ordered to take down that video at some point, and he refused to do so and has been put on administrative leave. And he did release a follow-up video after this made news. And so I will share that with you guys. And once again, it's about an 8-minute video, so we will discuss. There's been a lot of conversation I see in the chat. We will kind of come back and share our thoughts and opinions as well as addressing you guys. So here is Officer, or possibly former Officer Anderson's response to being put on administrative leave.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I just kind of wanted to take a couple minutes, get everybody caught up to speed on what's going on in my life. I've been getting a lot of questions, and figured I'd just make a second video and answer some of the things that I've been receiving. I first wanted to say I'm humbled by the response that my video got. It's been viewed millions and millions of times. People all over the country have been calling me, texting me, sending me emails, comments, and the overwhelming majority of it has been positive. And so I think that's pretty cool, because my whole thought process on making that video was trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public. And I've seen both sides with open arms willing to embrace that. And I think that's a step in the right direction. So that's pretty cool. One thing that I've seen come up over and over in the comments, and I've been in emails sent to me, is, are you going to get in trouble? What happened to you? Or is there any discipline any discipline taking place? And so I figured I'd take a chance and give you a little synopsis of the last 3 days of my life after posting that video. So I posted the video on Tuesday, was it May 5th? And it took it took a day or two before it really started getting a lot of traction. But the next morning when I woke up on the 6th, I think it was only at a few thousand views. And I had received a message from my command saying, wow, Greg, what a powerful message. We agree with that 100%, well done. And that was actually a relief for me, because I was like, great, I know that it's risky putting something out like that, but I felt like it was so grounded in integrity and liberty that no one would have an issue with it. So that was a relief. And then fast forward 3 hours later, I get another phone call from my command, and it said, hey Greg, the video's up to 400,000 views. It's time to pull the plug on this thing. And I immediately, it kind of caught me off guard, because I said, why would we want to pull the plug on something that was already acknowledged as a good and powerful message from one law enforcement officer to others? And I said, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think maybe we should embrace this message and we should share this with other officers. And he said, listen, it's not up to me. I have been directed to tell you to take the video down, and I need to know if you're going to take the video down. And I said, no, I can't take the video down, because if you listen to my first video, the whole message that I was trying to share with people and impart on them is, if you believe in something in your heart, you have to stand by that conviction, even if it costs you everything. And like I said last time, I have 3 little kids. I have this house. I have another house. I cannot afford to lose my job. But after putting that message out there and sharing that with America, and it was so well received, I can't then just say, even though that's what I believe, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to retract my words, and I'm going to allow my command to prevent me from sharing my heart and my truth. And I said, so with that in mind, sir, I can't take the video down. And, I didn't know where this was going to go. And I immediately started thinking about, what are they going to try and gig me on? What did I do wrong? What policy did I violate? And I got called back a couple hours later. And by this time, it was skyrocketing. Everyone in the agency was seeing it. Cops from when I was an officer down in Los Angeles, they were contacting me. I got a call and it said, listen, the video needs to be taken down right now, and you need to accept a letter of reprimand, or we're going to take a very different approach to this if you say no again. Well, I'd already put myself on that hill, and I had to be willing to die on that hill. They said they determined the video was a violation of policy, and that if I wouldn't take it down, that allegations would be made against me, and so on and so on. And so I told them, no, I'm not going to take it down. You do what you need to do. But the principle of it is rooted in truth, and it was a positive message that was received by millions and millions of people. If you want me to take it down, I have to respectfully refuse. And it was interesting because they kept citing different policies, like, oh, it was the social media policy, or some of your equipment may have been identifiable. And that kind of seemed like a moot point to me. And it was strange, because why was the message okay at 5 a.m. and then 3 hours later, there was a problem with it? And so I was later contacted by the chief of police. He's someone that I have great respect for. He's a good man to work for. And he's the one that shot me straight. And he said, Greg, if you openly defy your governor, you can't be a police officer in the state of Washington. And I told him, I said, you know what, I can respect that. And if I were in your office, I would shake your hand, respectfully disagree, and say, maybe I'm not meant to be a police officer in the state of Washington then. And here's my thoughts on that, okay? You have to do your research. You have to figure out what your true north is, what your truth is, and where you stand on issues. For me personally, I believe that the Constitution supersedes all other documents, all other laws. There's case law supporting that. If you look at Marbury versus Madison, 1803, it says any future laws created that are repugnant, meaning in conflict with the Constitution, are null and void. So when I look at how I feel comfortable enforcing the law, and I see people exercising constitutional rights, it doesn't matter if there's different executive orders, requests from mayors, requests from governors. To me, the Constitution supersedes that, and I'm going to stand with the people. Well, unfortunately, higher up in all agencies, there's a political game being played, and now I am on a administrative leave status pending termination. I was told by both the agency and the union that I was asked to take it down and I refused. So that's refusing a direct order. It's an insubordination charge, and it will result in me ultimately being let go from the agency. And I said, you know what, if that's what you guys have to do, if that video is so bad that you want to take my career from me and you want to leave my, like potentially take my ability away to provide for my family because of that video, do it. Because I'm going to stand by my convictions, just like I said in my last video. So yeah, it's weird, how fast your life can change in a week. It's something that I never thought would happen. I never thought that I would make a video that would resonate with millions of people. But my head is held high. I'm not intimidated or upset by how this played out. Like I said in my last video, man, I fought in the streets of Ramadi during 04 and 05. I came to terms long ago that my convictions and my beliefs may cost me everything up into my life. And even though it's 15 years later and I'm a police officer in Seattle, Washington, that truth still remains for me. So I don't have an option to back down or feel sorry for myself or give in and say, you know what, I got kids and I think I'm just going to take the letter. No, if they want to do me like this for standing up for liberty, they can do that. I'll leave you guys with this. It's on to the new adventure for me. I've been doing different things my whole life, and I'm actually excited, to tell you the truth. If you know of anyone accepting resumes, hit me up, because I might need it in the near future. But, I've always wanted to circumnavigate the globe on a sailboat, so maybe it's time to chase that dream. Anyways, I appreciate all the support, guys. Take care.
Okay. Excuse me. So, that is the surface level. That is kind of what any of us have been party to. I would like to, the police department's Facebook page, the pinned post is, it actually says, thank you for looking at our Facebook page. Chances are right now you're looking to post something in regard to how the Port of Seattle Police Department is handling allegations against Officer Greg Anderson. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I will drop you guys a link to their Facebook page if you would like to read the whole thing. Regardless, just scroll on down, and they said, Officer Anderson right now is on paid administrative leave. And the allegations are he violated use of social media, and it's actually probably going to be insubordination that gets him, because he was ordered to take down that video and did not. And they said the problem is, they said Greg has always had the ability to express his opinions on what is going on in the country like all other Americans. However, he's not allowed to do so while on duty, wearing our uniform, wearing our badge, and while driving our patrol car. Which, if I am not mistaken, is something known as the Uniform Code of Conduct. I.e. the things you can and can't do and say while in uniform in an official capacity.
Which is a lot like what the military
Right.
does. I could go to political rallies, but I better not show up in a uniform. I mean, even a lot of companies nowadays will even have that in their own employee code of conduct. So, which is what's going to get him. Now, I get why he did it, but it's
right. And let's kind of explore that. The first thing I want to say is that if it's a problem, and I'm not entirely fine with it being a problem, but if it's a problem, it needs to be a problem across the board. Let me say it that way. How many other videos are out there of cops singing along to whatever, teeny bop pop song and grooving in the squad car? And it's funny and it's lighthearted, and that's fine. But if it's a problem for them to make a positive statement, you know, Mark 18 was saying that he felt like it was scripted and some BS. And that might be the case, but when he was in uniform and saying what he said, what did he say that was incorrect? You know, so
Right. I think the problem you have usually in these kind of things of where it's not the same as the singing is the fact that it is at its core a political message. He may be right, and we can agree with him, but that's where that kind of differentiation comes into is it's not so much that you can't have, you can't say do anything at all in uniform. It's how can something reflect on the department or whatever, and that's where it's
right.
And again, it doesn't mean he's wrong, but he also, I think, knew that that was the way he was going to get the attention. Just being out of uniform and saying it would not have gotten the same amount of attention.
Right.
And I have a feeling that he's not dumb enough to not know that he was going to get some flack from his leadership.
Right. Well, the flip side is that it sounds like, okay, and it's been a few hours since I've watched both these videos. I did rewatch them, or I watched them this afternoon just to make sure that it wasn't a situation like another recent popular issue on Instagram that a lot of YouTubers went to bat for somebody and then turned out to be a major crap show. Anyway, he did make sure that with the way he held his camera when he was recording that, it was obvious that he was in a patrol vehicle, yes. It was obvious that he was in uniform, yes. But there were no identifying marks, indicating department and location and all that. So I feel like he did a good job of trying to anonymize as much as possible while still saying, I'm an officer speaking to my brothers in blue, if you will.
Right.
Anyway,
it's gonna hem him up, and it kind of depends on what they want to do with the publicity. The fact is that he just said something that is not going to be very popular with the brass.
And
something that does take differently between, like what you were saying, the singing or the whatever. One of them is meant to try to make the cops look cooler, whereas one is pretty much stating that there's going to be a rebellion. I mean, in not so many words, obviously, but kind of lends to that. So it just kind of depends on how his brass wants to take it. I have a feeling he's going to end up losing his job from it.
Right.
And
though, that's something I've got to... If I take everything at face value, all right, let's start with that. This conversation is going to be that I'm taking these two videos at face value. And in his follow-up video, he states that at 5 o'clock when he came on shift or went off shift, or I don't remember exactly, but he said that his supervisors were fine with it, and they said that's what you said is absolutely right. And then a few hours later, it comes down from the governor that, we don't like this, and you need to take that down. If all of this is at face value, I appreciate his integrity where on May 7th, he says to officers across the country, you need to stand up for what's right, even if it costs you your job. And then on May 11th, he put his money where his mouth was. And even though it was going to cost him his job, he did not take that down. So...
And I think this is one of those things where it points out why police department structures are really bad. You should not have a chief of police that's appointed. I think it should be like a sheriff. It should be an elected official, because when the governor tells a sheriff, I don't like that, the sheriff can look at him and say, oh, okay, good for you.
Absolutely.
Can you get out of my office now? I got work to do, you know. But that's why I really don't like the way police forces are structured. Because if it came down, if it's true that his leadership felt the same way, and I can believe it because I mean we've got sheriffs in several states now who are refusing to comply with the governor
Right.
because they're saying this is wrong, and that's good. That's their job. They're like I said, they're elected. They can't be fired for and just like they've what was it in Virginia where they said they would just start
Yeah.
deputizing people if they had to, because that's their right. Chief of police can't do that. A
Right.
sheriff, an elected official, can. So I want to hit real quick, Mark, what you were saying, something about has been trampling rights and violating people for decades. I mean, you're right. However, I think what we're seeing with some of these police have been, you can have your real gradual thing, and everybody thinks, well, okay, it's just one more little thing. It's just one more little thing. What we saw here in the last couple of weeks have been, we went from, A to Z suddenly, where before it was A, then B, then C, then D, a little bit at a time. This one was a lot more sudden, which I think has gotten a lot more people kind
Right.
of shook up more than the last couple decades. Not to say you're wrong, but I think that may be part of the reason why you start seeing some of these sheriffs stepping up. You're starting to see some of these police stepping up. These are the good ones who are not getting, or at least who are breaking out of the propaganda. And that's why you're seeing this sudden thing of all of a sudden, I got to say something, because they're now looking back, realizing what's happened.
And I will say, in trying to contact Officer Anderson, again, I was trying to get him on this stream, kind of get his, not putting any words in his mouth, not reading anything outside into those videos. I would have liked for him to be able to join us. Anyway, I found him on Instagram and gave him a follow. And I did see that yesterday or today he put a video up on his Instagram that evidently people in wanting to express their displeasure with the police department have started tying up the 911 lines. And so he was publicly requesting that people not do that. So no.
Yeah, that's not
Correct.
really the right way to go about things.
Again, I did share the police department's Facebook page if you'd like to make comment there. It seems as though, for whatever reason, whether this was premeditated and he was looking for a very publicity-driven way to get out of police work, or rather he was just being very genuine, whatever the case is, it looks like probably his career in at least the state of Virginia or state of Washington is concluded. If there are, I found a very big GoFundMe campaign that is supposed to be for, it actually says that the beneficiary is his wife. It is once again at like $360,000 pledged now. And then I found a smaller one that was only like $36,000. I'm not going to share the links for those simply because I have not found solid confirmation from anybody that those are not fraudulent. And I would hate to see you guys separate yourselves from hard-earned money and it turn out to not be the case. So, anyway, it's been an epidemic since. Yeah, policeman misconduct, honestly, since the beginning of police forces. There has been police misconduct. Once again, there will always be people that when they have a little bit of authority think that they are now God. And unfortunately, that will continue to be a problem because there are always people who believe that they are more equal than everybody else. So, unfortunately, though, not only do you have those people who believe that they're more equal who do end up with a badge, you're always going to have those people without a badge who think that they are more equal. And we need good people to help stand in opposition to that. So anyway, oh yeah, we do have more and more evidence of their malfeasance in the modern age. You're not wrong.
Yep.
Regardless, Officer Anderson's commentary about the tyranny nationwide brings us back here to the Midwest. Oh, and one more thing. I knew there was something. Ironically, Elias, you said that the difference with these TikToks and where cops are singing and dancing is that makes them more likable, more relatable, cooler, whatever. I take an opposite view of that. To me, and don't get me wrong, I like to play and joke around and have fun. You can find evidence of that in several of my videos. That looks, to me, them doing that in uniform, it could also be argued that it makes them look less professional.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not saying I like that they do
where
it. Just,
an individual saying, our oath is to the Constitution, to me, that screams professionalism in what the job is supposed to be.
Right.
Again, that could be a front, absolutely. Once again, you guys have to take Elias and I at our words that what we present here is genuine to who we are. I mean, if you don't know somebody in real life, and even if you do, how many times have you heard somebody say, so and so just wasn't who I thought they were? Anyway, so coming back to the Midwest, we have, some of you already know this, a stay-at-home rally set for the Capitol in Michigan again tomorrow. And yes, another rally in Michigan tomorrow. And poor conservative, you may have details right at hand. If you want to drop those in the chat, go ahead. Trying to see if I can find a start time in this article. Not that I think that the Daily Mail would actually give us that. So anyway, Michigan Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey and the governor have been basically, I'm not sure how to read this actually. So they're saying, the headline says that any Michigander brandishing a firearm should be arrested. But then further on down, it says that anyone...
So it's my understanding that that's what they want, but that wasn't actually
So it says
enacted.
anyone brandishing them in such a way as to intimidate or threaten. So that can be read a couple ways. Let's be super honest. If you are brandishing to threaten and you are not in a position where you should be, where a reasonable person would be in fear for their life, that's a felony regardless. That's like the whole concept of firing a warning shot. If you're not in a clean shoot situation, firing a warning shot's illegal. So it's the same kind of thing.
Right.
If I'm just mad at you and I uncover my firearm in my waistband, that's brandishing and it's illegal. That is not walking around with a slung rifle in...
Which I have a feeling is what they're going to try to make
because
it.
having that in the first place, they're trying to say is intimidating. The flip side is I really recall, I think it's been longer ago than what I'm remembering, but I seem to recall a protest not all that long ago where nobody was armed and a police officer felt the need to just walk down the line of protesters, spraying pepper spray in their face. So I can see good reason to feel the necessity to be armed at a protest. Anyway, and I haven't seen any information dropped, so once again, if anybody has information and wants to give a few details about tomorrow's rally at the Capitol, feel free to drop that in. And yeah. And what I understand of Michigan state law is that, once again, if you have a carry permit, it is open or concealed, so you do you. Now, what I am not condoning, and what has sparked some of this problem, are these calls for outright violence and assassination. I understand feeling disgruntled and being more than angry. As a matter of fact, as I look at if you are a Michigander, the crap your governor has pulled, I understand your feelings of anger and frustration. And unfortunately, you're in a position where you don't have a legislator who's going to issue a recall or, anything helpful such as that. But getting online and making threats and calling for violence, obviously, as we can see, is not going to help the cause. What might help the cause, though, is what has occurred in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, and this does tie together, I promise, has overturned the Wisconsin stay-at-home order. The governor had extended the stay-at-home order once again to May 26th, and the Supreme Court has now said that is not enforceable and has overturned it. And so now that one state Supreme Court has done this, I do believe that it's going to pave the way for many other states that have not handled this nearly as well as what they should have. Anybody asking for travel papers, that reminds me of a couple other countries that were not the United States in relatively recent memory. So for every state, not that Indiana has handled things perfectly, but I do feel like Governor Holcomb has really walked a fine line better than a lot of other governors. Barring things like Elias still can't figure out why public outdoor ranges haven't been open. We private range holders are doing okay. And as a matter of fact, the range I'm at, we have members, we have like competitions, a couple of them a month. And this upcoming one, we thought we were going to have to cancel or reschedule by virtue of the fact that like public parks and things still aren't open. So though the range hasn't closed with this being an organized event, and the county commissioner actually okayed them to go ahead and do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, so there have been missteps, don't get me wrong. There have been things with which I did not agree, don't get me wrong. But we've not had a situation like in Michigan where landscapers were told that they can't do their work and still maintain distance. So anyway, once again, with this ruling in Wisconsin, though, I think that some of these petty dictators are going to start toppling like dominoes.
And I think we're going to see more of those. We've already seen a few federal courts slam governors over church services. I think as more of these start going to court, we're going to see more overturning.
Yeah.
There was a difference between trying to stay ahead of something and just straight out infringing.
Right. And there's, I don't know, I'm reminded of a quote about security and essential liberty and et cetera, et cetera. And once again, it comes down to, if you feel like you should still not be venturing out, then don't venture out. But if you feel like you should go to a cookout with a group of your local patriots this Saturday, go have a burger and crack open a cold one.
The thing is that we know more about this now. We know who the high risks are. We know who is targeted by the virus. We can take better precautions without completely stopping our lives.
We think we do.
And that's where we need to be going towards.
So,
for the most part, yeah.
You know, but once again, every time we think we have a handle on something, some other talking head comes out with another. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is the media is really, they need to sell those ads.
What the media sells outrage, and so yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. If you can get people hooked and you can get people fearful and they keep listening to your show, your profit really can kind of go up. But for the most part, if you look at the actual numbers, we have an idea. Yeah. And once again, they're not what we were told they would be 4 months ago. And I'm not convinced that that is all because of the fact that we hunkered down like tortoises.
Right. Right.
So, Elias, you had said earlier in the afternoon, or in the evening, excuse me, there was something else that you said we needed to cover, and that's Wisconsin.
Pennsylvania.
There, that's it.
Pennsylvania. Okay, so this is a fun thing. Okay, everybody criticized Trump when he's done it a couple times now as administration, but for right or wrong, they've criticized him for wanting to withhold funding for various things, including some coronavirus aid at one point to certain states based on the way they were doing things. Well, after everybody got done criticizing him, the Pennsylvania, some of the, so I think by now a lot of people know that in California, some of the counties started kind of pushing back against the state. And so then the governor started saying, okay, we'll start opening up. Well, in Pennsylvania, they decided to start doing the same thing. The governor there, which is not on the same party, has done the exact same thing, saying he's going to withhold aid to the counties that don't go along with them. So pretty much something that we just saw the president get criticized for, now the other party's doing the exact same thing. And I just really found that kind of ironic there.
Yeah, well, once again, it's always there. You're always going to have those people that it's wrong until I do it. So,
yeah. Now, having said that, I'm really proud of the counties in Pennsylvania, just like I am of the ones in California, who are going, we know our area better.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one size does not fit all. The impact that I have seen in my highly rural county is nothing like the impact that Elias has seen in his more suburban or more urban county.
Thanks for reminding me, but yes.
And it's not the same as a rural county with an urban center like a meat processing plant that has seen a huge spike. So it's almost like one size doesn't fit all. And Mark 18, there is a good possibility that there is a big grain of truth to that. Once again, just last week, the CDC adjusted the numbers downward and cut them nearly in half of COVID-19 deaths. So
I won't go as far as to say nobody has died as a result of it, because people die from the cold sometimes. But we have heard many stories coming out of coroners being pushed to write COVID-19. Whether or not it actually was. They may have died in a car accident. Well, let's put it on there just to be on the safe side. So I do think that the numbers are greatly exaggerated.
Yes. And once again, and I've heard this actually from your state of Ohio, Mark, that they're doing antibody testing in some places now and finding a much higher percentage of people with the antibodies, and it's looking like the virus maybe has been in Ohio since January, which is something that we've all said before. And honestly, let's think about this. In January, there was a major firearms industry show in Las Vegas, and at the same time, there was a huge influx of Oriental businessmen and vacationers in Las Vegas while they had an active outbreak occurring in China. It would make sense that there were probably a lot of people that picked up the virus who went to SHOT Show and were either asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. It's all conjecture. I never ever believe that we're given the whole truth. And whether somebody died due to complications because of the virus or whatever, a lost life, especially if in this world, I'm going to say it's always too early. Very rarely. I mean, there are those situations where you've watched somebody suffer with illness, and though the loss hurts, there's a part of you that says they're not suffering anymore. For our loved ones, for our friends, it's always too soon. So, I mean, regardless of the cause.
All right.
Anyway, that's waxing a little bit more philosophical than what I intended to. We have made it through our intended subjects, Elias. And just right at 2 hours. So, guys, once again, I may have misspoken slightly, and I meant this was the last stream. Once again, just a few more days to pick up your hashtag social distancing t-shirt. The last county in Indiana goes into the next phase of opening back up on Monday. So at some point Monday, I don't know, sometime when I think about it, I will be shutting down those order forms. So if you want a social distancing t-shirt, you need to go ahead and get that ordered. And while you're there, obviously that is not the only design we have. Very happy with the Tactical Review logo that Poor Conservative made for us. That's actually probably my favorite shirt out of all of them that I've gotten. So once again, I appreciate that, Poor Conservative. That logo is amazing. If you're not following the channel on social media, you can do that with that username right there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Elias is Liberty Review 1776 on Facebook. He claims that he is not a teenage girl and as such will not be on Instagram. And honestly, your subject matter is a little harder to get pictures of unless you're going to do protests and stuff, where I get to do, cool hats and guns and magazines.
Yeah, you get to do the fun stuff. I talk about the boring things, like the government trampling on your rights and stuff.
I was going to say that's hard to sum up in a picture, but you can get some from World War II and things like that, and it really sums it up nicely.
I mean, honestly, I can go get a picture from probably last week in California. I'm sure I can find something. It wouldn't take long.
That's absolutely accurate.
Fortunately.
Guys, if you find that you have a few dollars extra a month and you'd like to help out the channel, you can do that over on Patreon. Right now, I am 100% self-funded, and the fact is that I like guns, and so I would buy them anyway. But if you want to help me with ammunition and things like that, that would be amazing. If not, I'm going to keep making the videos anyhow, so you'll have to unsubscribe if you just don't want to see them anymore. But please don't. Please don't. And speaking of subscriptions, if you happen to watch this and you are not subscribed, keep in mind we are just 160 some odd subs away from the 500 subscriber giveaway. So I am still kind of firming up in my mind what all the prizes are, but I have promised there will be 2 guns given away. So definitely want to be sharing the channel and help get us up to the 500 sub mark, and appreciate you guys sharing, appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Speaking of supporting, make sure that you go over to libertyreview1776.com and that you are subscribed to the Liberty Review podcast. That way you also get your notifications when Elias drops new episodes. Good.
I also put it over there on the YouTube channel.
So there you go.
So
Make sure that you go over and subscribe to Elias's YouTube channel as well. That's actually, I actually caught the last one on YouTube. It just works out well for me. I know that it makes it probably a little harder for you to get metrics, but you got to check in a couple places that way.
That's life. So all 333 of you.
Brownies, one-time donation. I think what you would have to do a one-time donation is subscribe to Patreon, and then after it charges you, unsubscribe. I think. So I don't think that they're set up for a one-time donation. And I don't have, I have a PayPal, but the channel doesn't have a PayPal. So that would probably be the way to do it. I think. And I need to check out Subscribestar. Maybe they have cool features like that. Or maybe I just need to move up a tier on, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, oh, Mark 18 talking about hospitals getting $40,000 for every patient placed on a ventilator. Yeah, and there was something about there was federal money for COVID-19 deaths, because the assumption being that it was financially more difficult, more strenuous to support those patients. So yeah, there was some, to jump back a topic, there was definitely, if there's money involved, there will be people who are dishonest.
There's some tomfoolery going on.
Once again, money makes people do dumb things. So,
Yep.
Guys, I appreciate you watching tonight. If you haven't yet, I would appreciate a thumbs up on the video. Definitely, whenever you're watching Pro 2A content, make sure that you are interacting, commenting, and thumbs upping, even thumbs downing. I don't like those. Those make me feel bad, but if you must, you must. But interacting with the videos lets the YouTube algorithm know that people are out there who do care about Pro 2A content. So make sure you're throwing those subscriptions. Make sure that, with the notification system now, you can subscribe to channels and not get notified when they upload new stuff, so that you can go and check on them later, but you don't get a lot of notification spam, and that lets the YouTube algorithm know that people are watching this stuff. So, don't kick everybody off the platform. Speaking of, because I'm not confident that one day I won't log in to find this channel deleted because YouTube doesn't like what it's about, you can follow links in the description and get to my Gunstreamer and or BitChute accounts, and you might want to subscribe to the channel on those platforms as well. That way, if all of a sudden Tactical Review disappears off of YouTube, there will be another platform for you to check things out. Also, anytime that I have videos such as my lower receiver build video, things like that, I have to post those kind of videos over on other platforms, because YouTube will just absolutely strike or deplatform a channel over that. All right, I think that's all the administrative tasks. Mark 18 saying check out Headlines with a Voice. I will check those out, or check that channel out after the stream ends, and you guys can all go do the same and see if it's something you like. In the chat, any last stuff, go ahead and make sure, if you want it addressed on the air, make sure you get that in there. Questions, comments, criticisms, and concerns. I don't take confessions. That's not part of my job. Anyway, Elias, do you have anything before we wrap up here tonight?
Not that I can think of.
Well, we will give you guys just a couple more minutes to...
just keep an eye on your government.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. You can always count on people with power to want more power. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Look forward to talking to all of you guys again next Wednesday, and look forward to chatting with you guys in the live chat on next week's premiere. Until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.